Friends, this story is inspired by real events. A recently released film brings this true incident to light. The plot revolves around an Indian girl who is deceitfully taken to Pakistan, where she is forcibly married against her will. The story unfolds as we witness the struggles she faces in an unfamiliar land. Will she manage to return to her homeland, or will she remain trapped? Let's explore the journey in this gripping narrative. The story begins in Pakistan, where a disturbing scene unfolds. Some individuals are seen forcing a child to practice shooting. Shortly after, we are introduced to Uzma, a young woman who arrives at the Indian embassy in Pakistan, accompanied by two men. Among them is Kadir, who claims to be her husband. He insists that Uzma complete the necessary formalities at the embassy quickly so they can leave. Once inside, the security personnel check them thoroughly. As Kadir and his companion step outside for a cigarette, Uzma seizes the opportunity to approach an officer inside. She pleads for help, revealing that she is an Indian citizen who has been held against her will in Pakistan. Shocked by her revelation, the officer named Ayush listens attentively. Uzma, still shaken and desperate, repeatedly asserts her Indian identity, showing her passport as proof. Convinced by her words, Ayush advises her to quickly enter through gate number 6. Without hesitation, Uzma rushes through the gate, which is promptly locked behind her. Her sudden entry surprises everyone inside the embassy. People question how she managed to get in and demand that she be removed. Frantic and terrified, Uzma cries out, stating that if she is sent back outside, she will be killed. She repeatedly screams that she is an Indian who has been forcefully detained in Pakistan and desperately wants to return home. At this point, an Indian diplomat named JP is called to the scene. He approaches Uzma and asks for her name. She recounts her ordeal, explaining that she entered Pakistan through the Wagah border. Once inside the country, Kadir forcibly took her away and subjected her to immense suffering. However, JP remains skeptical of her story. He suspects that Uzma might be deceiving them, and instead of believing her, he laughs at her claims. Meanwhile, outside the embassy, Kadir becomes furious, demanding to be let in. Since he is denied entry, he makes a scene. JP then instructs a female officer to examine Uzma for any physical injuries. Upon inspection, the officer discovers multiple bruises and wounds on Uzma's body, indicating that she has endured significant abuse. Despite this, JP remains doubtful and questions whether Uzma inflicted the injuries on herself. Desperate, Uzma falls at JP's feet, begging him not to send her back. She insists that if she is forced to leave, she will be killed. She would rather end her own life than go back to Kadir. Moved by her pleas, JP decides to shelter her within the embassy, preventing Kadir from meeting her again. Enraged by this, Kadir heads to the police station and files a complaint, alleging that the Indian embassy has unlawfully detained his wife and is not allowing him to see her. News of this incident spreads rapidly. Misinformation circulates, suggesting that the Indian embassy has forcefully kept Uzma against her will. As the situation escalates, India's Minister Sushma Swaraj contacts JP to inquire about Uzma's case. JP informs her that they have verified Uzma's Indian passport and confirmed the bruises on her body, which proves she has been subjected to severe mistreatment. He adds that Uzma is desperate to return to India. Upon hearing this, Sushma firmly declares that since Uzma is an Indian citizen, no one can stop her from coming back. However, until the necessary arrangements are made, JP must ensure Uzma's safety. She also instructs JP to address the ongoing rumors and clarify the truth, making it clear that the Indian embassy did not abduct Uzma but is protecting her from further harm. JP then approaches a Pakistani officer to discuss the possibility of sending Uzma back to India. The officer expresses a willingness to help, but there is a significant obstacle. Members of a militant group in the region are determined to prevent Uzma from leaving. The area where she is being held is under their control, and they suspect that she might reveal critical information if she returns to India. They fear she has uncovered secrets about their activities, and as a result, they see her as a potential threat. Kadir and his associates, influenced by these extremists, continue to oppose her departure. JP then meets Uzma and explains the situation to her. He tells her that she must make a statement, clarifying that the Indian embassy has not forcibly taken her in, but rather that she was tortured and now seeks to return to her homeland. However, Uzma refuses, fearing she will have to confront Kadir. JP tries to reason with her, explaining that she only has 3 weeks left on her visa. If the issue is not resolved soon, it will become much harder to get her back to India. He reminds her that he can only help if she tells him everything about her situation. Finally, Uzma opens up and shares her full story. She recounts how she had initially traveled from India to Malaysia in search of work. In Malaysia, she stayed with her friend Shaheen and Shaheen's husband. However, shortly after arriving, she realized she had left her purse in a taxi, which contained all her important belongings. To her relief, the same taxi driver returned it to her. That driver was none other than Kadir. Uzma was deeply impressed by his honesty, and over time, the two developed a close friendship. They spent a lot of time together, and Uzma began to trust him. One day, she received distressing news. Her daughter's health had deteriorated, and she urgently needed money for treatment. Her husband had abandoned her, leaving her helpless and desperate. Seeing her distress, Kadir stepped in and offered a solution. He told Uzma that in Pakistan, treatment for her daughter's illness was much cheaper and assured her that her daughter could receive proper care there. He promised that he would help her, and Uzma, believing in his sincerity, decided to go with him. Following Kadir's advice, she applied for a Pakistani visa, listing him as her contact since she had no relatives there. Within a few days, her visa was approved and she traveled to Pakistan. Upon arrival, Kadir and his friend greeted her warmly, and she was initially happy. However, she soon noticed that Kadir was not the same person she had known in Malaysia. As they traveled to his home, Kadir told her they would need to take mountainous routes. He gave her some medicine, claiming it would help with the journey. After taking it, Uzma began feeling disoriented. By the time they reached Kadir's house, she was barely conscious. When she regained her senses, she was horrified to discover that Kadir was already married, multiple times. He had several wives and many children. Realizing she had been deceived, Uzma confronted him, demanding answers. She accused him of luring her to Pakistan under false pretenses, using her daughter's illness as a trap. Kadir and his men responded with violence. They restrained her and subjected her to severe abuse. Whenever she begged to be sent back to India, they ignored her pleas. Instead, she endured daily assaults and was treated as a prisoner. Locked in a dark room, she noticed something disturbing the next morning. She saw men arriving, seemingly to buy women. She quickly realized that girls were being trafficked in that area. It was like a market where women were bought and sold. Uzma, terrified for her fate, knew she had to escape. She attempted to flee, but a woman in the house stopped her. The woman warned her that no one could escape from there, as the entire area was isolated. There were no roads, and even children carried guns. It was impossible to seek help. Despite this, Uzma begged the woman for assistance. Moved by her desperation, the woman agreed to let her make a phone call. She handed Uzma a phone, and Uzma immediately contacted her friend Shaheen in Malaysia. Through her, she managed to convey the truth to Shaheen's husband, revealing the horrifying ordeal she was trapped in. Husband then asked her to stick to the plan and follow through. He insisted that she do exactly as he said. Meanwhile, Kadir had devised his own plan. He wanted Uzma to agree to the marriage willingly. However, when she refused, Kadir became furious. In a fit of rage, he brutally beat her and then forcibly married her against her will. After the marriage, Uzma started behaving kindly toward Kadir. She played along, pretending to accept her new reality. She told him that since they were now married, they needed to think about the future. She mentioned a wedding ritual where the groom is supposed to give a significant amount of money to the bride's family. Hearing this, Kadir became curious and asked how much money was involved. Uzma told him it was around 10 to 12 lakh rupees. Greedy for the money, Kadir agreed to her plan. Uzma told him that to receive the money, she needed to contact her family and inform them about the marriage. However, to make it official, she would have to visit the Indian embassy and provide proof of their wedding. Kadir, eager to claim the money, agreed to take her to the Indian embassy. In reality, this idea was given to Uzma by her friend's husband. It was a carefully planned strategy to get her to the safety of the Indian embassy. The plan worked, and Kadir took Uzma to the embassy. After hearing all this, JP reassured Uzma, telling her not to worry. He would make sure she returned to India as soon as possible. However, Uzma needed to make a public statement about her ordeal. JP promised that she wouldn't have to face Kadir and that everything would be handled as she wished. With this reassurance, Uzma agreed. JP then called Kadir to the Indian embassy, telling him that Uzma wanted to talk to him. Meanwhile, Uzma gave her statement to the media, revealing everything she had gone through. She publicly declared that she was an Indian citizen and that she had been forcibly held. She pleaded for help to return to her country. Her story spread rapidly, making headlines across news channels. As news of Uzma's ordeal reached the public, people took to the streets in her support. They demanded that she be allowed to return to India. However, Kadir and his militant allies were enraged. Furious, they decided to file a legal complaint against the Indian embassy, accusing them of unlawfully detaining Kadir's wife. When JP learned about this, he immediately contacted a lawyer. He decided that before Kadir could file a case against them, they needed to take legal action against him. The case reached the High Court. At the court hearing, Kadir's lawyer argued that Uzma was legally married to Kadir and that no one had the right to interfere in their domestic matters. He suggested that Uzma and Kadir should live together for a year to resolve their differences. Uzma's lawyer countered by stating that she had been forcibly taken and that she wanted to return to her home country. He argued that she should be granted the right to Pakistan. The judge ruled that Uzma, as Kadir's supposed wife, needed to give a statement in court. However, Uzma's lawyer expressed concerns about her safety, stating that she could not face Kadir. He requested full protection for her. Understanding the risks, JP devised a plan to ensure Uzma's safety on the way to court. He arranged for another woman who bore a slight resemblance to Uzma to accompany him in his car. Meanwhile, Uzma was transported separately in another vehicle. As expected, Kadir's men were lying in wait. Seeing the decoy with JP, they assumed she was Uzma and launched an attack. At the same time, JP contacted a high-ranking Pakistani minister, warning him that any harm to Uzma would bring serious consequences and damage Pakistan's reputation. This pressure forced Kadir's superiors to intervene, and they ordered his men to stand down. This allowed JP to safely transport Uzma to the court. Inside the courtroom, Uzma bravely shared her story. She told the judge that this was not an issue between India and Pakistan, but a humanitarian crisis. No woman should ever be forced into marriage and captivity. Moved by her testimony, the judge ruled in her favor, granting her permission to return to India. Kadir was furious, but he could do nothing. Uzma's friends were overjoyed, and she was given full security protection. JP, determined not to make any mistakes in ensuring her safety, decided not to wait another day. He immediately arranged for Uzma's departure to India. As they headed to the airport with their security detail, Kadir and his men made one last attempt to stop them. JP, now driving himself, tried to evade them. However, reinforcements from the protection team arrived just in time. In the chaos, Kadir's men were involved in an accident, allowing Uzma and JP to reach the airport safely. At the airport, officials questioned Uzma to confirm that she was not an Indian spy. She answered all their questions convincingly. Finally, she and JP boarded the flight to India. Upon arrival in India, Uzma was welcomed warmly by then Minister of External Affairs, Sushma Swaraj. The media covered her story widely, sharing images of the young woman who had endured so much. And with that, Uzma's harrowing journey came to an end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your friends. Your support helps us bring more exciting content your way. And if you love exploring thrilling stories and mind-blowing sci-fi, subscribe to Navitech and Entertainment and turn on the notifications so you never miss an update. See you in the next adventure.
You're a superhero.